All right, it's the Nigeria Vote Studios on TVC, and I am Mike Okwache, and we've been coordinating and updates and giving you all the live reports from parts of the country, from the north to the south and from the east to the west. We have our correspondents in all parts of the states in Nigeria letting you know what is going on. Elections, Nigerians voted yesterday in the general election for the presidential and senatorial as well as House of Reps election, and 24 hours after INEC is doing its job by collating some results, trickling into INEC. They are knowing from the different polling units, but certainly they are the ones to let everyone know. But we will certainly be on ground and letting you know how people feel and how people are going about waiting to get the results. I have with me Curtis Adigba. He's a lawyer and an analyst. We have been doing justice to this in the studio. He's here alongside Adili Adewale. He is a former chairman of Amodofin local government area. Gentlemen, thank you still for staying with us this morning. Now, in one of the reports earlier, INEC yesterday said that where they notice that there has been violence or some issues, the elections will be rescheduled there. We talk about some places in Lagos, some places in Delta, some places in Bayelsa and Rivers, and maybe in Kogi State and all of that. But if there's going to be a rescheduling of election, we certainly went to the presidential, Senate, and House of Reps election. How will that impact on the presidential election?
Well, it depends. It depends on the number of people that are going to cast their votes. Take, for instance, if President Buhari is leading with about 20 million votes, and a certain corner of the country where the election was not concluded, they have about, say, 300,000 voters that are waiting. And automatically it means that whoever that have that largest vote, even if you put that vote to the opposition, it's not, I mean,
is it consequential?
Inconsequential.
Okay, so he's looking at the numbers.
Numbers, but again, they have the right. They have the right. You understand? They have the right to vote, but if those numbers are not adequate enough, then INEC can go ahead and declare the winner.
All right. Now, Curtis, we heard also the reports of where individuals were volunteering to buy ink, to buy markers, to buy things like that for INEC. How would you, INEC got its budget for everything it wanted. What do you think is wrong in that?
The human factor. The human factor. Because we don't know whether INEC provided those things, but we can assume that they did. And somehow they disappeared in transit. And so the essential character of the Nigerian, which is what we don't talk so much about because we don't hear about their good doing so much. But the truth of the matter is that an average Nigerian is a good person. When you meet a Nigerian outside the shores of this country, he could be Igbo, it could be Yoruba, it could be Hausa, but he sees you as a brother or as a sister and is kind and nice to you. Now, at home, we also have very good people, good Nigerian citizens who are out there looking out for themselves and for other people and doing all that the society needs to get ahead and move in the right direction. But we don't hear so much about these things because of the preponderance of the negative things that also take place. And so what you see yesterday is that character manifesting. Nigerians wanting to do it right and do it right for themselves and for the country. And so they stepped in where they saw that vacuum to provide those things.
In places like Magodo, in places like VGC and all of that, we saw people, cook rice and cook, bring all of those things, and people were having fun with canopies and all of that. What do you say about the spirit of, contributing and the, enthusiasm of election?
You must understand that in this climate of the world, we have communal living. And anywhere you go,
that's the real African.
The communal living is there, and they will definitely want to share what they have and all of that. And of course, because they also have something doing. I mean, life has a meaning to them. Areas where you see people being borrowed or being used for sinister activities is also because of the fact that they've not been engaged with a lot of things that could take their time and could also see that life has a purpose. But definitely, we need to journey on a lot of orientation must be put in place, and people need to understand that we must always put country first.
All right. A lot of people have come to say that we need to take advantage of technology in the right way and adequately for this election, for election processes generally. Others will cite the issue of illiteracy, the issue of infrastructure, data availability or data penetration and all of that. What do you think INEC should be looking forward to when it comes to voting? Some have cited even the issue of banks and the issue of JAM, registration and WAEC, where digital this and that goes on. So why shouldn't we imbibe that in elections?
Yeah, I think I agree with that reasoning. But here's the point. INEC do not need to introduce just one method for everybody. That's where the problem is.
How do you mean?
For instance, let me give you an example of the United States, for instance. You don't have one voting method, okay, where on election day, everybody will go in there and vote in a particular way. From state to state, you have different methods of voting. Oregon, for instance, people don't even go to any polling booth to cast their vote. You mail in your vote, okay? There are states, more than about 15 to 20 states, where you have early voting in the United States. You find that in North Carolina, Florida, and all that.
But the U.S. is almost 300 years old.
Yeah, but
Nigeria is just less than 60.
But don't understand. But what you need to understand that the U.S. just didn't happen. It was a gradual process. People talk about ballot snatching. There were times in the U.S. where ballot boxes were snatched. But we forgot about that because we don't hear about that anymore. There were times in the past where women couldn't vote in the United States. In fact, they were seen as the quarter of a human being. And blacks also were not allowed to even vote. But all this, evolved, and today we have the Voters' Right Act. You have all kind of legislation that came in, to defeat these prejudices. So the point I'm making is, INEC could experiment. I'm not saying that there won't be problems, because I belong to the NBA. We had an election with less than 50,000 members. We said we should use our phone to vote.
Was,
and people are still complaining. The election does not need to be perfect. There are no perfect elections anywhere in the world. In the US last time, we heard about voter suppression. We heard about attempt by the Secretary of State of Georgia, who was also the governorship candidate of the Republican Party, saying that your names must appear exactly on your ID as they appear on your registration. So if I'm Curtis Denye Adigba, and that's how I registered, and I take my ID to go and vote, and I'm Curtis U Adigba, because U does not represent Sudenyi, but it wasn't spelled out fully, I was disallowed from voting. That's a clever way of suppressing votes, especially from the stronghold of your opponent. You understand what I'm saying? So we can experiment so many methods.
A lot of things.
For instance, those who have BVN can be identified with their BVN. Those who have registered phone numbers, like we've done with NCC, can vote from their phone. And those who don't have access to internet in some local communities can have a different method. So we must unbundle the methods.
Ayodele, I wonder what you feel about this, where there can be different methods of voting, where for a place like Lagos and Abuja, for instance, or maybe the cities, where you have internet, you have level of awareness and all of that going for anyone. INEC should take advantage of that, and then maybe for the villages, use another system so that everyone can be on board.
Well, as much as I want to think along that line, I think differently. We are in a digital world. Why must we take ourselves back? The evolutionary...
But it has to do with carrying everyone along.
Yes. The evolutionary period of America itself, in terms of electronic voting and all whatnot, is now up to 40 years. You understand? And this is in this same country. In this same country, we had a period where we got the first television before most part of the United States. So why are we taking ourselves back? Now, if people now, in order for you to do your WAEC, you have to go on computers. Why do we want to take ourselves back? It means that we must enlarge the spectrum to allow a lot of people get educated. All of our people, in Cuba today, you can hardly see anybody that is not educated. Cuba have conquered passing of HIV to babies. They've conquered it. And Cuba does not have the kind of money we have in Nigeria. The missing link there is education. We have the ability to educate all of our people, even in the mountains, mountainous region. We have the ability to do it. We have the ability to produce, to provide energy for all of our people. So we must not limit ourselves. INEC should bring that revolutionary, evolutionary, trend into our system and penetrate where.
So we hope to see something new in 2023 elections. Is that what
I don't base my workings on hope. I don't base my working on hope.
We must see.
We must,
right.
And we must work towards it. There must be a target. There must be a target. In the next 4 years, I want all my citizens to vote using biometric, you understand, systems, whereby as you're voting, the INEC headquarters is collating. It is possible. Then in that 4-year line, every 1 year, I will review my system, and at the 3rd year, I should be ready. Then I test it.
The Electoral Amendment Act the President refused to sign. He cited the issue of it is too close to election and we can't. Now, when it comes to all of those reforms and things that should be put in place and even diaspora voting and so on and so forth, is it time now after this election immediately for INEC to start pushing for those things?
Yeah, I think so. And here's the problem we are confronted with every time. They take off the foot off the pedal as soon as one assignment is concluded. The window that exists is for you to prepare and start preparing immediately. Look at the last election. Look at how close it was to the election before INEC got their funds to start real preparations. I'm not talking about, oh, we're on top of the situation. That's not preparation. Make payments for the things you need to pay for, train, recruit, send people out, you know. Sit down, envisage problems, provide solutions, test them, even before you go out there to do the actual exercise. So I want to think that INEC would have learned a lot of lessons from what has happened. Now, just imagine the problem we had with the conduct of this election that led to the postponement for 1 week. If we had diaspora voting and all those put together. And look, it's a possibility because all it takes is for you're a Nigerian, you are registered, you go there with your identification to your embassy and then vote. The embassies or high commissions can't transfer the results to Nigeria in a flash.
We spoke with, I had the opportunity to speak with the INEC chairman at the time when he was in our studio here. We asked him all those questions. And he said, INEC is ready with all of those templates when it comes to diaspora voting, when it comes to essential worker voting, where they can vote 2-3 days before the election and all of that. The only thing they're waiting for is the legal framework to give it a commencement, as the case may be.
It's going to be difficult when you have a National Assembly that does not even vote digitally. It's going to be very difficult. So the best we can do is that we should work towards getting the right people in National Assembly. When you have right people there that knows the importance of doing things timely and doing things with jet speed and of course accurately, we will get all these things right.
All right, let's get back to the issue of violence. Curtis, do you think violence during election is the biggest challenge for election in Nigeria?
It is part of the problem. I wouldn't see it as the biggest problem because even in this election, how many spots did we have violence from? And don't forget that violence don't just happen. People sit down to plan them. The political elite. Because ask yourself, what do the thugs who are victims of the political system stand to gain by going there unmotivated to go and start causing problems? It's a deliberate process. You know, they recruit them, they pay them, they arm them to go and do this. And you know, that's typical modus